It's our pleasure to bring back again to our conference here in Tampa Barbara Marciniak, who appeared first at Global Sciences in August in Denver. And our people liked her and kind of think she liked our people. And it turns out that she's one of our kind of people. Since she decided a long time ago she wasn't going to be a part of, quote, the system, unquote. And that kind of warms the cockles of the bottoms of our pelvic area, you know, or whatever. We're pleased that she is pleased to be with us again, so I'm happy to report or to present to you again star of stage, screen, and domestic supermarket openings, Barbara Marciniak.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I want to tell you something. I've been doing this work and being on stage for about 8 or 9 years now, and I do a lot of conferences, I go to a lot of places, and this one's very different. Because maybe what you all don't know is that before the conference starts, Dean asks all of the presenters, all of the people that will be conveying to you their ideas and views of the world, to gather together and we listen to each other. No one else, out of all the places I've been, bothers to have a powwow and set the energy before it's distributed. So I just want you to know how special he is, and this is how energy is built. And this is how we get to know each other, by setting an intention, by knowing where each person's coming from, and then listening, and then having the courage really to be ourselves. I started on my having the courage to be myself journey when I think I was just a little girl. And like all of us, our childhoods are important, our lives are important. If there's anything I've learned over the years, is that we live in a significant world, and no one, any system I was ever a part of, ever really taught me that. My parents didn't really know that. They were they were Polish, come from a Polish background. I grew up in upstate New York. My family was not metaphysical. They were not occult. My father was a milkman. My mother was a housewife. My older brother was born with Down syndrome. So everyone stared at us every place we went, and we were always considered to be, a little bit different. And we were different, even though we were very regular. And my thing from childhood, I always felt like, how did I get here? How did I end up with these people? And how come everything is just so meaningless? Where is the meaning in life? I was raised Catholic. My parents were not strict Catholics, but they were strict people, meaning that they had certain moral values and certain ways they felt that we as children needed to behave, and we had to have and live within those boundaries. My father was an ex-Marine, so he was a very, very, very tough man, very tough man. He, like many men from World War II, brought all of their aggression and their unexpressed experiences home and stuffed them. And then didn't know how to deal with his emotional body, because his most outrageous experiences in his emotional body involved killing. And my dad joined the war, like many people did of his generation, because he was told that it was the patriotic thing to do and that America was threatened, and so he went, like so many people that you know, and probably some of you here even. When I was growing up, I couldn't figure out who I was. I didn't know that I didn't know I came from space or anything, but I always studied the stars. And I couldn't figure out how I got the people I did, and how we were Polish, and how we just lived like regular people, and it just felt like what was missing. Everything I was told in school I could do, I was smart, but it didn't excite me. Religion made me feel that I was bad. Now, I was mischievous. I was a troublemaker. My dad always called me the instigator, the leader of the pack, because he knew it wasn't my older brother that would cause the mischief. My brother was always discounted, okay? And my sister Karen, who's here, was a few years younger, and she was always on the good side. And so, you know, it always came back to me, and I was exciting things because I felt life was too dull. But according to my religious background, all of the ideas that I was told was that I was bad, I was born sinned. And I saw through that stuff right away when I was a kid. Because for some crazy notion, I got this idea, I was always concerned about, well, you know, do brothers and sisters have to marry each other? And I had this Down syndrome brother, you know, and I didn't want to marry my Down syndrome brother. I mean, this is a little girl thinking, okay? Because they would tell us in religion, they would say, you know, Adam and Eve were the first people, and then that's where everybody came from. Well, as a little girl, it didn't compute. If Adam and Eve were the first people and you didn't marry your brother, where did the people come from? Now, when I used to bring this up or query this, you can imagine that people who delivered dogma, and dogma is really information without being connected to the purpose of it. It's a regurgitation. It's what our system today is based on. It's what we spend thousands and thousands of dollars for, to put little letters after our name to let people know how good we are at regurgitating and presenting dogma and leading the people with ideas that don't make sense. So I saw this when I was a little kid, and I played the game. I always played the game. I always knew what lines I could toe and how far I could take it. And my brother died when I was about 12, and that was in many ways very traumatic for our family. On the other hand, a big relief. And I think we're still processing his presence to this day, wondering who he was, what he did, what kind of vortex this child that really only knew love brought into our family. And there's so many more things, but I'm just touching on ideas with you about my life, because as I share with you significant things in my life, I want you to reflect on yours, because yours is the same. Living in a significant world doesn't mean my life has meaning and yours doesn't. It means I hunted it. I played the game of meaningless living with education and religion and just what everyone knew, but I always looked for more. I played the game. I went to school, I went to college, I played the game. If I liked it, A's. If I didn't like it, just cruise through, C's. I could always give them what they wanted, but I would never put my heart and soul into something that didn't have meaning. And war and killing always never made sense. Sickness never made sense, because my brother was always ill. And when he was ill, I used to watch him be ill. And I remember the doctors, once in a while the doctors would come. My parents were not medical people. They didn't rush us. They get, you know, when we grew up, they'd give you a shot of liquor and say, here, shoot this down, you'll be fine, you know? I mean, from a very old school kind of work harder, get rest, keep going. And I made a decision when I was a child that my brother was sick because of him and that I was not going to be sick. I made that decision when I was young. I didn't want to be sick. I've never had health insurance to this day. I don't get sick. There's no need to. I deal with life. Because over the years I figured out what makes people sick. And a lot of it is not dealing with living, which is really basically what we're all here to do. And it's not dealing with how we feel, stuffing feelings, having feelings about brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers from the time that we're really young and then feeling guilty about those feelings or confused about those feelings, and then never really looking for maps of significance to tie our lives together. And we're just, it's not what the system is. So I looked for that. I hunted it, you know. I went to college in the 60s, and so I was a very enthusiastic participant of the psychedelic movement. I opened my consciousness, and I remember the first time it happened. I was about 19 years old, and I said to myself, oh my gosh, everything is alive. And then everything from that moment on started having meaning. I know for many people, that time brought a lot of casualties in their mind. And of course, I've heard over the years many stories about the covert intention of the drug movement, the LSD distributed to people from the CIA, and you know, we'll just lump everything into the CIA, but I certainly know it's many more organizations than that, but no offense for any of you operatives from whatever organization that you come from who are here. Bear with me, I hold no grudge towards anyone. I'm just looking to tie a little story together to make people understand or help you understand that there's meaning. And what happens in 3D seems to always have a map someplace else in a system of divination. And the system that I started looking at much later in life was astrology. And I began to see that the things that happened to me in childhood, the events that led up to my beginning to have my channeling experiences with the Pleiadians, and what's going to happen next year and in the next 15 years, these things there's weather. There is weather, folks, and we can become psychic weather people and figure out what's going on and what season we're in. There is a season of consciousness. This is one of the major things I discovered, aside from the fact that every single thing we experience is significant. It has meaning. The tougher it gets, the bigger the test, the greater the opportunity to grow. So in the late 70s, I came across the Seth material. Many of you are familiar with Jane Roberts and her teachings. She was a channel from upstate New York around Elmira, and she began in around 1963 to have contact with a discarnate entity called Seth. His main message was, you create your own reality. When I came across this material in the late 70s, it encapsulated everything that I had experienced and knew and was looking for, and yet never found in the printed word. And you know how when you find something in the printed word, it's like, oh, it's real, it must be real, you know? It just gives it some sort of validation, like you can put your hand on it and go, wow, someone else thought it and wrote it, and there it is. And it was a key decoding point for me, but at that time I wouldn't have described it in those words. Just like my first psychedelic experience was a key decoding point to shift my consciousness and say, okay, there's a bigger picture. Just like my brother was part of shifting my consciousness and giving me angst, or creating angst with me in some way, so that I would seek to grow. In the Seth material really enlivened me. I started to play with it. I recorded my dreams. I began to use the power of my mind to think about what I wanted. I was a waitress at the time. I was living in Southern California, waiting tables, because after I graduated from school, I never wanted to be a part of the system. It didn't make sense. So I would just go and work wherever I felt like living, have a good time, study, lay in the sun, pay my bills. But I would not follow the principles that my parents were infused with, and that was the obey, be on time, and die. And that's the major mind control message that has been given to us in this century. Obey, be on time, and die. And it's probably been around a lot longer than that. So I would do my own thing, just whatever made me happy. And of course, the Seth material was a study. During that study, I was living in New Mexico. I had left California, been involved with many people there. The movement was very tiny. You were weird to think this way, totally weird. But I was always popular and mainstream enough that I could pull it off, and I didn't care what other people thought. Not really. I didn't want to offend them, and I didn't want them to dislike me, but just because you didn't like what I was doing did not mean I wasn't going to do it. It just meant that I knew you didn't like what I was doing. So I moved to Taos, New Mexico, and I had a very bizarre experience happen to me. In the process of recording my dreams, one night I was sleeping, and it was my habit, in order to remember my dreams, that I would drink a glass of water before I went to bed, so that I would have to get up in the middle of the night and urinate. And then I trained myself when I woke up and was on the way to the bathroom, that I would always say to myself, where did I just come from? Where did I just come from? And then I would pull all these stories down and then stumble back to bed and go back to bed and just create this sleeping, breaking, sleeping, waking pattern so that I could begin to break into that world. And it was just part of the training that I set up for myself. So I was sleeping, and I thought that I was getting up to go to the bathroom. And as I got up to go to the bathroom, I looked out the window, and I lived out on the mesa. It was very dark. I had a little adobe hut that I was renting from this artist. And I put my hand up to the window, and I just looked out the window like this, which has been something that I did my whole life. When I got up at night, I would always kind of want to peek and see what was going outside. Who knows why? Well, we know why. And so as I was doing this is 1980, December 1980, something grabbed this wrist, and it felt like it was Superman or something, a steel grip grabbed this wrist and yanked me. And I was gone. And I had never had an experience like this before, and it was startling, to say the least. I freaked out. That's probably the best way to describe it. I didn't know where I was. I didn't. There was nothing. I was just, something grabbed me. It was all black, and I was struggling. That's all I can tell you. I remember wanting to call my neighbor's name, and I couldn't get it out, and I felt like I was just frozen, paralyzed, but I can't remember a thing about it. I have had major UFO investigators regress me and insisted that this is what happened to me. And so, of course, no one can tell me what to do or what's happened. Only we can decide ourselves. And so I just am holding my own vision on what happened. So the next thing I remember, I'm back on my bed, but the struggle seemed like it went on for a while. And then I'm back on my bed, and I'm feeling restless. I'm feeling like I've got to escape or something like this. And I keep reaching over to turn the light on. And the light keeps turning into a candle. And that was my first clue that something bizarre was going on here, and that it wasn't a 3D experience. Because I really thought I got up and was on my way to the bathroom. And so when this light kept turning into a candle, I saw these three blue beings standing around my bed. Now I'm laying down, and so they're not very high. They're perhaps this high, and they're very bright blue. If this lady here, will you, Diane, stand up for a second and show your blue? They weren't that color, but more royal on it, but there was no mistaking that it was blue. Very, very bright, iridescent, glowing blue with black eyes, as I recall, and a few little fingers. And I really freaked out then. And I can't even tell you so long ago, what I did, but I got out of it. Eventually I woke up, but before I woke up, what I saw these beings doing is that they were patting the air above my body. And now in today's lingo, 1997, I know, obviously they were doing something with my chakra centers, but I didn't know that language back then. And one was right here doing this above my third eye area. The other one was right here at my solar plexus, and they were using both their little hands, and they were going like this. And then the other one was at my feet. And I was frightened, very frightened. And I had traveled all over the world. This thumb has taken me many places. I've traveled in my mind. I've traveled many places and never encountered this. So I wrote it down. I was terrified. I woke up. I couldn't go back to sleep. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. I stayed up till dawn. I wrote it down in my dream journal, and I stuffed it. I stuffed it because there was no place in any of my far-out thinking, in any of the world's thinking, that made a slot where this made sense. So I put it away. And I had to convince myself that I lived in a safe world, because the Seth material taught me that I created my own reality and that I lived in a safe world. And this was diametrically opposed on my feeling center to what I was living and what I was intending to bring to my life. Because here was what looked like a violation, an intrusion. Some people call it an abduction. I don't like to label things because I understand as soon as we label anything, we shut down our thinking, and then everything has to confine to the labels. And then we know everything, and then of course, when you know everything, you know nothing. You know how that goes. And really, the more we learn, the less we know. I mean, if there's anything I've learned, that's it. The more I learn, the less I know. It's a magnificent universe. So I was scared for a few years. I didn't want to go camping anymore alone. I didn't want to climb mountains anymore alone. I was like, gee, when are they going to show up again? They can show up anywhere. And I didn't know who they were. And I didn't really talk to anybody about it because I was already far out. You know, I was already way too far out for people. This was like way beyond anything. And something I want you to know, I stopped watching television in 1972, I believe it was about 72. And, you know, I haven't lived with a TV for years. I think I lived with a fellow in the 80s, and we had a TV for a little while, you know, and I watched V, and V was on, and that was it. You know, I don't watch TV, so I didn't know where mainstream America was. TV didn't make me feel good. It made me feel funky back in 1972. So I just said, I'm not watching this anymore. And that was it. Just like when I was a kid, I said, I'm not going to be sick. That doesn't look like fun. Decisions, folks. I'm not different than you are. I just was looking to just, if it didn't feel good and it wasn't fun, I wasn't going to do it. And I learned that much later on, that lingo exactly, because that was one of Seth's teachings. If it's not fun, stop doing it. That doesn't mean be irresponsible. You got to pay the bills. You got to live. But we're not here to struggle. And that's the story that we're sold from every avenue of thinking. So I got over it. I stuffed it. I buried it. It was in the dream journal. It was called 3 Blue Beings, the weirdest dream I ever had. And then I had to go on living. And then one time I was at a friend's house in the 80s, and we were sitting around. She had her TV on. This is about 85 or something. And it just so happened one of those weird shows about weird stuff was on. And there, those little faces were on the television. And I was like, oh my God. I was just amazed, okay, that they were on TV, and then the show went off, and it brought it all up. It brought it all up. It reminded me of it. And so then I was like, oh no, I don't want to bring that up again. Whoa, that's the scariest thing in my life. We'll just stuff that one down. So that was about 86, I believe. And then something else happened. Maybe it was 87. Now remember, 87 is harmonic convergence, all right? And whether you believe in astrology or whether you believe in these calendars, listen, the Gregorian calendar is virtual reality. We can make anything make sense, and we make time, and we do these things to define time. So there's significance within all these things, even if they're made up systems, because they're not really made up. They're sent to us. We're all really telepathic beings who are continuously receiving data all the time. I don't think we originate a thing. Most of us don't have the courage to have original thinking because we're entrained with the idea of obey, be on time, and die. So anyways, 1987, harmonic convergence, I make an intention that my life must change. I'm selling real estate, and it's not cutting it. I'm making money, it's not cutting it. This is not what life is about. So I make this intention, and then 9 months later, I end up channeling the Pleiadians. And they always like to joke and say they were conceived on the harmonic convergence and born 9 months later. And they like to joke and say that the day they were born is the day that the sun is conjunct the Pleiades. I didn't know that. I didn't study astrology back then, so I didn't know all these things were all significant. They're all being mapped out. I'm just leading my life, looking to create what I want and learning about intentions. I learned that intention is one of the most important tools that we have, and that is how I create. I intend what I want. I was doing it from the time I was a kid. I didn't use that precise language. I just said, I want this, or I'm not doing this, and that's it. But today I would say to you, if you leave here with anything from my lecture, understand that your power, your energy, your free energy, sits with your will and your intent. And there are no limitations with that. There are only the ones that we are sold. And you know who sells them to us. You look at the clubs you belong to, whether they are political, educational, or religious, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to insult anyone, but something on this planet has not been working for a long time. And if we are going into a, quote, new age or a new era of being, then that means we don't take the old stuff that doesn't work with us. And what doesn't work is us against them. It never does. What doesn't work is victimhood. I felt sorry for myself when I was a kid because I got stuck with that family, and that was what I was experiencing. When I grew up and I found out I lived in a significant world, I started looking at my family's charts. I'd start looking at my dad and why he was a Marine and why he went to so many battles and he fought in the Pacific, and he would tell stories now about how he came back. He went over with thousands of guys and he comes back just a few. Over and over again. Why did he make it? Why did he make it? Why do people live and die? And what do their experiences mean? We live in a significant world, and when we have the courage to attach meaning to it and attach meaning to our lives, that begins to open up the vibration that maybe there's nothing wrong with us. Maybe we were not born sinned and flawed, and maybe that's how we're manipulated to believe we're born sinned and flawed, and then therefore we have shame, and then therefore we think everything we do might be wrong. And we're afraid to feel. We're afraid to feel. And feelings are the key to health. You ask the doctor here, you seek her out and you check it out, she'll tell you that. Feelings, folks, are the key to health. Melvin talked about it laughing, because you know what it does? It enhances the immune system. I'll get into some of this a little bit on. I want to tell you how I started channeling. So 1988 rolls around and I'm getting these messages, things are going on with me, I'm feeling things. Drives, impulses to seek for greater meaning. I was studying the Keys of Enoch. I joined a group and we were studying this book, and I was really using my intention, and I decided to go to a few things, and energy was really popping. Every time I'd go someplace, new things would start opening, just like for all of you. Every time you reach out and go to a conference or read a book or seek to want more, there's connections that are made. Well, those connections just kept accelerating for me, and I saw a paper that said return to the ancient homeland of Greece and Egypt, and so I said, oh, I've got to go. I had no money. I didn't have any money to pay for it, but I found myself committing to go. And I said, I'm going. I don't know how I'm going. I went home, and there was a credit card in $15 shy of the amount that I needed to go on the trip, and I said, well, I have to get in debt to do this, but here's the exact amount of money. So I said, well, if I sell a house for this amount of money before I go, before the time is, then I know I can go. Of course I did, because I set it up. Because I wanted to go, and I set up the condition under which I would permit myself to go, sell a house. There's the money, there it is. That's how it works. But we all set up often negative conditions for ourselves and do not understand the power of word, the power of sloppy thinking and sloppy language. We're trained in it. We're trained to say, my back's killing me, my neck's killing me, I can't stand. We're trained to say these things that limit our energy. So I went on this trip. We went to Egypt, we went to Greece, went to Delphi. The day after I went to Delphi, I had a message. And sometimes I talk about voices in my head. And when I say voices in my head, it's not like I really hear a voice that goes, Barbara, now come on, pay attention to us. I say voices, but they're like voice impulses. They're impulses. And I don't always listen, because my dad wanted to tell me what to do my whole life, because he was told what to do in a Marine. And so I resisted that my whole life. So when something in my head's going to tell me what to do, that doesn't mean I'm going to obey it. I'm not easy to get to obey. That's not my way. It has to make sense. It has to feel right. So this voice is impulsing me. It's the end of the trip, and it says, go to your room and practice channeling. And for a few years, my sister Karen had said to me, you're going to be like Jane Roberts, you're going to channel. And people would tell me, oh, you got all this protection, this psychic energy around me. Wow, this is stuff. And even one entity I remember said, write a book. He said, you got a book, you're going to write a book. Short, sweet, simple, it's going to be a bestseller. I was like, is this I was stunned. I couldn't talk. Is this a joke? This is 1986. I had nothing to write a book about. So in 1988, I got this message, go to your room and start channeling, practice channeling. And so I went to my room. My roommate was out that night. I sat down. I closed the door, closed my eyes. I had been on this trip with a trance channel. He was running the trip. I'd met Jane Roberts after I started studying her material, so I was a little familiar with trance channeling, never read Edgar Cayce. I sat down, and I visualized myself back inside the Great Pyramid, where we had kind of an initiation at the beginning of our journey, and this is now the end of it. And of course, as I said, Delphi was the end of the trip. And I said very clearly, I intend to become a clear channel now. I'll never forget that, because that's what I said. I intend to become a clear channel now. Then, sitting there with my eyes closed, and I'm visualizing being in the pyramid, then all of a sudden, I feel like I want to talk. So I start talking, and my rational mind is going like a zillion miles a minute going, oh no, this is crazy. I'm in the room alone and I'm talking. And I've always talked to myself, but not with my eyes closed like I was pretending to go into trance. If I was going to talk to myself, I was awake and knowing what was going on. So I start talking, and my mind's like analyzing what I'm talking, and I go through this whole process where this voice is saying stuff, and stuff's all making sense, it's really making sense. And I'm feeling good about it and everything. And about half an hour into it, they say they're the Pleiadians. And I'm like, oh boy. But I kept going with it, nobody's there, and my head is asking the questions to the me who is speaking the words, and then my rational self is analyzing if anybody's walking by in the hall, if they could hear me, and my other rational self is going like, gee, maybe I could turn the tape recorder on while all this, so I'm on all these channels at once. I come out of it, and I feel great. And I knew they said a lot of really great stuff, and I could remember it in the beginning. And I told my roommate, because she came in a little while later, and they began to fade. It began to fade. And of course, by the next day, everyone knew I was channeling Pleiadians. Didn't take long for that kind of word to spread with a metaphysical group in 1988. So the next day, everyone's ready for me to channel, and I'm like, no, it's not real. No, it's not. It was a mistake. It's not really channeling. I don't know what it is. No, please. And the fact that they were Pleiadians, I remember when I came home from the trip, I called my sister and I said, Karen, guess what? She said, you start channeling. I said, how'd you know? She knew. And I said, yeah, but I got ETs. I don't forget, Seth was discarnate, and this was, stretch. I got ETs. So my sister Karen and a few other friends were very, very instrumental in encouraging me to stick with it. And I had to do a lot of work. And everything I'm telling you is what the planet is going through. It's not me. This is not me, Barbara Marciniak's ego-tripping story. This, folks, is the process on some level that each of us are going through, integrating energy, contact, our lives, and the significant meaning, and learning how to pull that energy in our body and link up and become more psychic, more compassionate, and certainly more intelligent. 'Intelligent, 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 So I began this process. I didn't know who the Pleiadians were. I still don't know who they are. I said to them, you can use my body and you can use my voice, but I'm in charge. I make the rules. If what I say goes, because I have to live here. You come in, you do all this stuff, great, and then you leave and leave me with the fallout. So I gave them all the rules. I didn't want them popping in unexpected. They were to be there at my beck and command. In other words, when I said we were going into trance, I was going into trance, then they would show up. They were not to like pop in a grocery store or do any bizarre thing or take me over to deal with something that I, was having a difficult time with. I made very distinct boundaries and rules with these beings. And still, it was a very intense process for me. I knew so many things, and yet this was foreign. And I didn't know about body work. I didn't know really that much about what energy did. And what happened is, I started studying astrology. They said, use crystals. Hold crystals in your hand when you channel and study astrology. So I started studying astrology, and I eventually learned that I started channeling when the sun was conjunct the Pleiades, which happens around May 18th, May 19th, and May 20th, depending upon where you are on the planet. The Pleiades is located at 28 degrees Taurus. And so I started channeling on May 18th, 1988, when the sun was right there. And the Pleiadians like to joke and tell a little aside. And they always say that the Pope is also a Pleiadian because his birthday is May 18th. And so that's just a version of their kind of humor. They look and they map significant things. And, well, that's another story. But the Pope definitely has some powerful connections. So life went on. I began to integrate them. One of the most important things I had to do was to have body work. Because what was happening is that I was about 39 years old, and I was having a Kundalini experience. Now, life in this significant world we live in, I began to discover that we all go through all these cycles, and the planets influence us. And these cycles delineate certain opportunities in life. At 28 or 29 years old, you're in a major cycle. Every single one of you. You go through a very difficult experience and you build a foundation for the rest of your life on something. I came into the Seth material and started doing yoga. At 38 or 39 years old, we have Uranus opposition, and at that time, it raises the energy from the base of our spine, which is the home of the Kundalini, and pulls it up in our body. And we have to integrate all this energy. If you don't know how to integrate the energy and lift it up, and it just stays in the lower parts of the body, guess what happens? You get very sexually active. Horny, it's called. Okay? And sexual activity can often be a result of a lot of energy running through the body if you don't understand what's taking place and don't know how to really distribute it. And this energy wants to teach us. And it's going to teach us based on our life lessons, our blueprint. Our blueprint is interpreted from the moment that we're born. You can have a birth chart done in just about any system. You can have your palm read, your handwriting analyzed, and numerological. There's all different ways, folks, of finding out that we live in a significant world. And you check out 20 systems, they'll all point you to the basic character of who you are. So one of the most important things that I learned is there are no victims. We are only creators. We only choose to experience what we want when we want it. And I chose my Polish family with my retarded brother so that I could get to feel what it would be like to have that experience and to grow from it and just be a very normal person doing very unnormal things. So where am I here? Body work. I began to have massage, I began to have Rolfing, I began to search for why I would have backaches, why the energy was stuck in my body, and I had to accommodate this force of intelligence that I often compare to a riding herd on like 1,000 wild Mustangs. These beings are powerful. And as I invited them in my body, I had to learn how to live with them. They brought up every single one of my issues, because I would blame them for stuff. I believed I created my own reality, but then when I got them, I would get mad at them. I would blame them for stuff. I would quit all the time. I'm quitting. I'm not doing this anymore. You get somebody else. I would use every one of my techniques to play with them who are invisible, so it would look like to some people I was a complete nutcase, okay? But I knew I wasn't. I didn't care what anybody else thought. I knew I was sane. I knew I was pioneering something, figuring it out. So we made peace. One time during a bodywork session, I felt them, and I felt how much they loved me. And I began to cry because I never let that in. I never imagined that a person, my grandmother loved me like that, but I never imagined that it was like me withholding love, afraid to have it, and so I wouldn't allow myself to feel it. And during this bodywork session, I got really vulnerable, and they opened me up, and then I was like, oh, I feel this wave of love, and they really love me. And my parents really loved me. And so I got to experience these frequencies of love and to begin to see what this process was really all about. It was my spiritual growth. And my creating the Pleiadians and creating all the things I did, just helping me understand me and helping me grow into territory that I didn't want to grow into or that I was afraid of. So I live with the Pleiadians today. We're good friends. They don't land. That was one of my rules in the beginning. You can use my body, you can use my voice, just don't show up. And I didn't want them to show up because of all the startling experience I had back with the blue beings. It was like, I know ETs are real, and so no one's ever going to convince me they're not because I know they're real. Just don't scare me. I don't want to be scared. So they've always respected me. They have all the rules I've made them. They've said, no problem. No problem. We'll work with you. They don't tell me what to do. They don't tell me what to think. I've said they've taught me how to think. They've stretched me. Instead of them landing in the backyard, I've had to go to their place of reality and meet them in an invisible world. I used to say to them, if you're really real, you must show me. But don't show up, but I want you to show me. So I want you to arrange things. So I would say, okay, you want me to do this? Don't expect me to go out and pump your material and do this, and do all this work for you. You just arrange it and I'll show up. I was very irreverent with them. I would test them to the max. I would push them to the ultimate. They never had a problem with it, okay? I was fresh, definitely. And they would notch my reality in very different ways. They would make all these synchronicities take place. I used to wonder at times, and it's a legitimate wonder, was I a mind control experiment? Was somebody feeding me data? Was I a CIA mind control experiment? I never had, my family wasn't affiliated with any possibility of it. We weren't military. But you know, stuff went on, folks. It's been going on for a long time. The influencing of our minds. I mean, the most powerful common tool for mind control, of course, you understand, is TV, because it makes images. And we're like dry sponges, and we absorb images. And because we don't want to think, we want to obey and repeat and be good little puppies and say, oh, good, look, I can regurgitate what you're telling me to think. People absorb what's on TV in a little box, and they assume it's reality, and then they create reality with that. And of course, the more electronic stimulation you have, the faster the message travels, the faster whatever message is being put on electronic stimulation is then downloaded into 3D for many, many reasons. Collapse of time and more energy coming into all of us to teach us this very, very powerful truth that we indeed are creators. And that when we have the power and the courage to be in charge and really just use our will and our intention, in a group and as individuals, then we will change the world. I could talk a lot more about this, but I'm going to shift gears because we don't have that much time, and I want you to see what I do. I want you to experience it. And it's fun. I have a good time. It does not drain me. It's never drained me. It energizes me. I am here. I know everything the Pleiadians are saying while they're saying it, but once it's finished, it's old news. So I don't listen to my tapes. Once I write my books, I don't read them. I often wonder what's in there, that people buy them all the time. It's like I grab all this stuff, I understand it intuitively, but once it's finished, it's finished. I'm on to new stuff. But the most important thing I learned in doing this process is that the Pleiadians use me in some way, like we're all used, to reach into this world. If there's anything I've learned, we are multidimensional beings. That means that we are not just human, that we live many lifetimes, and that we exist as many characters. And this realization that we are multidimensional is what we are on the verge of moving into now, the movement from linear time, the insignificant world that is clocked with meaningless, that goes boom, 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 to the significant world that says everything is alive and everything is multidimensional and I am a part of everything, and therefore there are no enemies. All right, there are no enemies. And I will tell you, there will be more enemy opportunities in this next year than you have ever seen, from space and in 3D. I'll let the Pleiadians give you some of that. So let's do some energy now. When I do this, I ring a bell. It's a Tibetan bell. I also have a big gong that I play, but it's just a little too cumbersome to bring. And I use sound to organize the energy in the room. I don't have to use the bell to go into trance. I don't have to hold this crystal to go into trance. This is what I choose to do. These are my little road show tools, so to speak. All right, I don't need them. This is a Herkimer diamond. I grew up just out of Herkimer, New York. What I do is I'm going to ask you to give over your attention and your energy to yourself, and to create a form of energy in the room. I'll talk us through this, and then I'll ring the bell. And then when I ring the bell, you just follow the sound, and you use that energy to intend something for your life. All right? And when we do this in a group, it kind of like puts a whole boost behind your individual energy. And then I come in, the Pleiadians come in very quickly, and they just still give a talk, a teaching. They speak in an accent, and they're very funny. They like humor, and they're very witty, and often they will speak over here to someone, but they're really talking over here. So they read energy, and tonight when I do my workshop, it'll be mostly me just channeling. But now I'll just give you a little preview of it. And then what I really like to do is end with a toning. And ending with the toning kind of raises the vibration and really allows each and every one of us to see how much energy we have. That's why I do this. Because people think I have energy and they don't. You all have so much energy, you just don't put your attention on it. You don't take the time to get quiet, focus on your breath, and use your will. And if there's anything I've learned, people are terrified to want. They want to be told what to do. So it takes courage to say, I will be in charge, and this is what I want. And in today's world, what you want comes very, very quickly, whether you want it by intent or default. It comes back instantly. So if you would, you can clear your lap. That would make a little easier flow of energy, too, because I want you to open up your body. So if you have anything on your lap, take it off your lap and sit forward in your chair. Clear your throat. Move a little bit. Move. If you want energy to come into your body, you need to make the body available. It's like getting in a car and starting up a car. You get in the car and you make an intention about where you want to go. And there's preparation, all right? And the body is the same way. If you want to have energy, you get the body ready, and then you make an intention about where you want to go. So clear your throat, close your eyes, and do a good throat clearing. Cough. Good. Take a deep breath, and then pound your chest when you exhale. Shoulders up to your ears and hold them up and clench your fists. Take a deep breath and hold it. Tighter, tighter, tighter. Drop it. Now relax. Close your eyes. Let your lids rest very gently on your eyes. And I want you to put your attention on your breath. You can hear the fans in the room, my voice. But focus on the stillness and the sound of your breath in your throat. And I want you to breathe through your nostrils and imagine that you're pulling in charged energy. And you can call in your guides to be around you so that you feel safe and protected, and ask them to be your gatekeepers for energy, or whoever you work with. But focus on your breath, imagine your guides, and let that breath become more charged. And imagine that it's infused with this vital energy. And the breath that we're pulling into our bodies has all the products in the room put in it. And we're breathing that in. And breathe it into the bottom of your lungs, to the sides of your lungs. Breathe it into your shoulders. And then exhale and find that rhythm where you're breathing in through your nostrils. You're feeling that energy in your lungs. And then you're gently exhaling. You can rest your hands palm up on your lap so that you're in a receptive sitting position. And keep breathing. I want you to find something about yourself that you love, that you know you love, and that is really good about you. Find something, a part of your body, a part of your character, a part of what you do in living that you love about yourself. Keep looking until you find it. The things that come up, embrace them. Don't deny what you love about yourself. And if you can't find anything, then create something right now. You can always love your smile, your eyes. You can love your fingernails. You can love your toes. Find something that you love and begin to focus on it. And begin to let that part of your life that you love about yourself, let the breath that you're bringing in, let it ignite it so that it grows. And let that love feel warm, and let it travel all over your body. All over your body. This is for you, no one else. This is my voice, your imagination, and your breath. And your willingness to use the power of love in your body to heal and to be more. Now fill yourself with this energy and imagine that your whole body is filled with the power of the breath and that warm feeling of love that you've moved from head to toe or toe to head. And imagine that this is now seeping out your skin into your auric field. And then imagine this feeling in you is growing and growing and growing, and extend it out further and further so that it moves, so that maybe it's first a few feet and then larger, 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet. Imagine that your field easily goes to 100 feet outside you, and that you have the courage to know that you are worth it, and that you love yourself, and that you have the courage to be a big being with that love. And then feel all the other beings in the room, and like we're a whole bunch of big bubbles of love making a shape in our minds. Feel your guides, because they're going to enhance the frequency. When I ring the bell, I'm going to ask the Pleiadians and the guides to turn up that frequency that we're breathing in, that willingness to know what love is. So when I ring the bell, I want you to feel the energy expanding, that bubble of love. I want you to reach it out to the surrounding state of Florida, and send it to wherever you live. And let's use the image and the power of our mind to send this frequency out to a world that has lost the idea of simple living and common sense. Let's send the idea when I ring the bell that we are all very valuable. So follow the sound and find something that you want to manifest in your life. Use the energy that we're creating to bring it to yourself. So keep breathing and follow the sound. Good morning. We are here. It is our great pleasure to be in your reality once again. We are here speaking through our vehicle, which we have been around, and there are many, many energies that are around you. And you are stretched as humankind to begin to recognize it. You are under the misconception often that you believe you need to build telescopes to see into space. That is one way of getting there. That space is like potatoes, and there are many ways to experience it, cook it, taste it, etc., etc. We often compare realities to potatoes. You can think that there is one way to experience it and have it that way your whole life. Or you can begin to be adventurous and creative, inventive, and claim your heritage. We have with a short amount of time to share who we are with you. We are like a voice on the wind. We are here as an enigma in many ways, to remind you of something. We come through time, come through the dimensions. We come through the body of our vehicle with her permission. But we do not need this to be in your world. And our vehicle does not need us to expand her consciousness. We have an agreement. It's a fulfillment of her life and something that we are curious to do. We come from the future. We are collective. We are time jumpers. Now, some of you know a little bit about time jumping. And sometimes the results of jumping time and ripping holes in the fabric of time is quite disturbing. But we are certainly not the first ones, and we are more like menders than we are rippers. But sometimes the holes happen for a good reason. You're on the cusp of great, great change. Feel the energy in your body now. Imagine the guides, those that have been with you your whole life, they are with you now. If you use your will and intent, nothing can overcome it. The tests of each of you that are gathered in this room will grow and grow and grow Do not think life will become easier, but certainly you will have much more fun with it. You will learn through your challenges how to have a greater ease. And as soon as you learn how to master one challenge, you will be given another. Humankind and all of existence is an experiment. There is a plan. There is a huge plan. And within that plan, there is free will to a certain extent. But you are multidimensional creatures, and so you are linked up to a retinue of intelligence that you are just beginning to grasp. And because of great seasons of change, just as you celebrate your holidays on your world, and you have your seasons that you have marked on your calendars, and you have your important times of light and dark fluctuation with our solstice and equinox, and light and darkness, of course, modulate your consciousness. You are studied, you are observed. And do not think that craft need to be parked anywhere to observe you. You are living in a world where it is impossible now to name phenomena. Here one moment, gone the next. 1 minute a carrot, next minute a Sasquatch. Because multidimensional beings can shift shape and size. And so the more you want to label and track space, you will make the same mistakes that your scientifics did when they began to create the whole hierarchy of labeling and naming humans and plants and animals. And then what happened is there was no room to be anything outside of the labeled system. Be like children. Let your feelings out. Speak your innocence. Be in wonder. Do not be so eager to know everything and to say this is it and this is how it is. And be prepared, dear friends, to be healers of consciousness, to teach people how to manage their perceptions and manage their energy. Because your perceptions, your consciousness has been managed, farmed, and organized for hundreds of thousands of years. Because you do not exist longer than 100 years, and you do not carry your memories in general from one life to another, it seems as if you lead a significant life and you are amnesiatic. This is ending. You are seeing the end, the very end of perceptions of existence as you know it. And endings always herald new beginnings. So be excited and trust the process. There is no technology that ever will be greater than your biological spirituality. Your biology, the miracle of who you are, you can never replicate outside yourself. All you ever do is look to make things in third-dimensional reality to mirror your own greatness. Everything you build, every toy, every technology, every tool is an extension, a symbol of what you yourselves are capable of. So have fun with it. Be in your integrity and be responsible. The test of freedom, which you are all challenged to do in this new Aquarian age that you will be ushered into. The test of freedom, remember this, if you are taking notes, is your ability to respond. Responsibility. Can you respond to what you create in life, and how do you respond? Or do you choose to say, I am a victim, there is nothing I can do? Your power ends where your fear begins. And as you have all heard so eloquently delivered to you, fear is how you are controlled. And there's only one way to overcome fear. You decide to order up something else on the menu of life. It's like bacon and eggs. How do you want your eggs? Fearful or trustful? Oh, I'll order fearful today. That's what I'm used to. I've been served it my whole life. I don't know how to order trustful eggs. Order your life up like you are going into a restaurant saying, no, I've had that my whole life. I think I will do this now. This feels better. I am willing to do something different. Because your resistance is what shuts your body down. And often what you resist is your deep feelings. Your emotions are so strong, you don't know how to express them, you don't know how to manage them. So you must learn, each and every one of you, to find the rightness of your life, to forgive your family and yourselves for all your own victimhood, wherever you thought errors or mistakes were made, or where you got shortchanged or ended up in the wrong place. Believe it or not, every single one of you chose to be who you are. And so add dignity to your choice. You are so valuable that you have been tooled with genetically. You are an experiment. Many beings from what you call space have influenced you, have put their genetics in you. We have often said that you are a library. You are a genetic library that is called Earth. And that inside genetics, genetic DNA and all kinds of things in your bodies are stored data, all kinds of data. And when you invent something and you create all these new things, they come literally from your DNA. And the energy that is now shifting your world, that you might want to name photon belt or solar waves or who knows what names you are calling these things, it doesn't make any difference. They are all metaphors for a shift in consciousness that is occurring to help you grow up, to help you be more. And in actuality, all of the beings that will come to you, all of the glorified glories, in all of their flowing robes, in all of their greatness that so many of you want to worship and think they are so delightful heavenly brothers and sisters, they are coming here because you are the great ones. They are coming here because there is something stored in your biology, a potential that is so vast. It has been sequestered away. It is like a secret. It is like your stories of the Ark of the Covenant or the Holy Grail, the mysteries that people on your planet search for to find the value and meaning. Like a hidden catch of gold is human consciousness in the spread of existence. And so many come here now to watch you on the cusp of blossoming. You have been dormant seeds, and now you are sprouting. And so do not doubt that you can penetrate through the soil, because you will watch a garden grow, dear friends, that will stun existence if you would simply believe it. So live your lives. Trust yourselves. Be in integrity. Use your sexuality with honor, because your sexuality is like a nuclear bomb. And if you do not know that, then learn it now. It's one of the most powerful forces that you have. You are dynamic beings. Be responsible, be of clear intent, and then have fun. Are you with us? You know, don't take life so seriously. We are not Syrians offering you a serious approach. We are here as Pleiadians offering you a very play at ease message. And if you cannot learn to play, then you will have a difficult time in the years ahead. A timekeeper, how are we doing?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, all right. We've delivered our message. We will be speaking later on this evening and entertaining your questions. You can ask us all the things you want in workshops, and we'll have a good time. But in concluding, we would like you to demonstrate your power of sound to yourselves and to affect the area of Florida and to lift the vibration of your body. So nestle in one more time with your eyes closed and expand yourselves. And imagine that the field that you built a few minutes ago is even bigger. And look at the combination as you breathe of all of your energies, like a huge glittering diamond or a geodesic dome with many facets, many things to experience and learn. We're going to ask you to tone, to let the sound like your ah come out of you and listen to each other. Imagine that you are, for a few moments, going to give a little bit of a concert, a symphonic concert, where you are in harmony, where your voices blend, where the power of you, the individual, is unified in sound. And we ask you to put intention behind that sound, that you live healthy and abundant and vibrant lives, and that you step forward with courage, and that you have the courage to truly hold your planet in a frequency of love and heal humankind. Claim your heritage. So now, like wind, start slowly with a hum. With a hum, yes, with a hum, soft hum. Hum, 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 with a hum. Yes, like bees, like a million bees. Hum, zzz, Feel the energy now, build it and get warmer, 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 warmer. Come on, heat it up and add some variation. Listen to each other, stay in harmony, heat it up. Come on. Open your throat and give yourself permission. Lift your voices. It is the voice of freedom. It is the voice of love that you are speaking. Lift your voices. Like a wave of light now, lift your voices. Lift the roof. See if you can lift the roof. Go ahead. Go for it. No one is going to say anything. Lift the roof off. Send the energy out there. Lift it. Go ahead. Do it. Marvelous. One day you'll be wanting to go and have your own show on the road and go on tour. Well, anyways, it is important to speak your truth. Trust yourselves. Know that you are in a time of momentous change and that you are the designers of it. It has been our great pleasure. Good morning. Hello. Thank you.